It's time for 41 is the Mic, a weekly Chiefs podcast with Nick Jacobs of KSHB 41 and Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mic starts now.
Welcome, everyone, to another victory shutout edition of 41 is the Mic. I am Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest, alongside parabolic mic enthusiast Nick Jacobs from KSHB 41. 31-0, Nick. I mean, this was a whitewash.
Look, it was a dominant performance. The Chiefs did what you wanted to see them do to build on from what they did last week, and they were able to build on that performance with the Lions and kind of pick up where they left off in a lot of different areas, attack some new areas. You saw a lot of those times where Mahomes had to take off and scramble and kind of create his own magic. Sometimes he didn't have to do it with Rice out there finding voids and finding the voids in the zone coverage and finding opportunities to really help catch and convert a lot of the time. So I mean, that helped lead to a lot of first downs, 30 overall, obviously, and then just to help the Chiefs be able to kind of create yet another dominant performance. And you're hoping they can take it to another level on Monday night next week against the Commanders.
Yeah, Mahomes 26 of 35, 286, 3 touchdowns. I don't know. I guess we'll see if there's another NFL Offensive Player of the Week award, AFC Player of the Week award coming his way. You never know. There's some other good performances out there today, but Mahomes, as sharp as ever, once again, made one bad throw. Could have been an interception, but it was not. But otherwise, Patrick continues to look like, he's putting the ball almost on the blade of grass that he wants, and barely missed connections with Tyquan Thornton on the one deep ball, hit him later on when just found him wide open when stepping up in the pocket. Patrick's just Patrick right now.
Well, I would say the Raiders were able to crank it up there in the second half and start bringing a little bit more pressure whenever Trey Smith left, and the Raiders are starting to get a little bit more desperate as the game went on after Crosby went out, and they were starting to sit on some of those short routes, and the way the Chiefs were attacking everything, they were starting to take that away. Like when it was 14-0, there was a chance Mahomes, like the interception you're talking about, there was a couple other opportunities to where that really could have had a turnover and really kind of kept the Raiders in the game, but thankfully they dropped one of them or didn't properly catch one of them, and a couple others they didn't get close to, and then the Chiefs were able to just kind of continue to steamroll their effort on offense the way that they did.
Yeah, and that was what was particularly impressive, obviously, is that the Chiefs had some long drives. So they only had 3 possessions in the first half, 21 points, scored on their first 2 possessions of the second half. You can't get much better than that, Nick. 100%, 31 points on 5 drives. That's what we call really good.
Yeah, for all 4 of the scoring drives, it was 9 plays, 17 plays, 16 plays, and 11 plays. And then another 9 for the field goal. And then they packed up the tent because they were done at 31-0 at that point. And they had efficient, effective, dominant drives, and they overcame penalties a couple times. And they did everything that everybody's been wanting to see. It's just a matter of where were these shoulders at after it got yanked on a couple times and kind of got driven in the ground another time. So it's just a matter of where that's at. And then, keeping everybody as healthy as you can, and then seeing what happens along the offensive line this week in terms of injuries. And I wasn't surprised to see there be some injuries and everything on the Chiefs side, because that was a very physical game against Detroit, and Detroit had the reputation last year and kind of the year before. They would have very physical games, and themselves and the opponent after, or the team that they played, the next game would be sluggish and have some injuries. So I wasn't surprised that the Chiefs kind of had the injury bug bite them a little bit on Sunday.
Yeah, and let's touch on those real quickly. We had Trey Smith, who left the game with what Andy Reid said was his back locked up. Wasn't one of the injuries that he mentioned off the top, which is normally Andy's indication that it's not super serious, but he did in the remark in the press conference and kind of just say, hey, they're hoping that's going to be okay. The Chiefs also ruled Jawan Taylor go out with a shoulder injury, but he never left the sideline. I think that had this game not been in hand, I think he would have stayed in the game. So it didn't look like that was significant. The one to be concerned about, Omar Norman Lott, going off very gingerly, had to have both help off the field and then help to the locker room for x-rays. We'll have an MRI on Monday. That's the one to watch out. And we'll probably talk about that a little bit more, especially when we're starting to talk about what the Chiefs are going to do at defensive tackle, because there's going to be a discussion there between now and the trade deadline. But after Mahomes, obviously the big story of the day was Rashee Rice coming back. Not for me, not even just from the suspension, but also his first regular season game back from the knee injury. And Rashee obviously looked pretty good, Nick.
I mean, he picked up where he left off in training camp. He kept himself in great shape, because from the time we watched him at OTAs and training camp, I mean, he looked like regular season form back then, and he slowly gained his explosiveness from when you and I first saw him in OTAs to mini camp in training camp, and he got back to who he was by the end of training camp. He was back to who he was, and he was able to be in that same ballpark, and the Chiefs did a good job of managing him today and not making him be out there for 100% of the offensive snaps. So, I mean, look, like, the offense is different when he's in there. Like, he's become Mahomes' favorite target whenever he is out on the football field. So last year, him being injured forced Mahomes to kind of expand his horizons to a certain extent. And like I've kind of said on this podcast for over the past year at various points, like, Rice has kind of taken the role that Travis Kelce used to have in this offense. And so, like, when you have him out there, that's why you're going to routinely be efficient and effective. And Mahomes trusted him on that back shoulder touch throw they had to make there and everything for the touchdown. So, I mean, him and Rice, they see the field the same way, and they've built up that chemistry. And each opportunity and each week they get there, Mahomes gets further along and kind of builds that to where Rice is kind of, in some ways, kind of the heir apparent of who Travis Kelce was in this offense long term.
Yeah, 33 snaps for Rice, 10 targets, 7 catches, 42 yards, 2 touchdowns. A really nice debut. The interesting thing, Nick, I did watch for it. I believe I counted 5 snaps when actually Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, and Hollywood Brown are on the field at the same time. Really funny thing is that the first time it happened, Nick, it didn't count because there was a penalty that wiped out the play. The other funny thing is that on the other 4 plays, the Chiefs weren't terribly successful. They had 1 incompletion. They had a completion to Worthy, I think, for 12 yards. Mahomes scrambled for 3. So I think they had 15 yards on the 4 actual snaps that those guys were on the field. But I think what we see, when the Chiefs are talking about having those 3 guys together, it's not necessarily going to be the fact that the 3 of them are on the field all at the same time necessarily consistently, but the fact that you can catch those guys coming in waves. Mm-hmm. There's not going to be a breather for anybody's defense or secondary when you have those 3 guys and Tyquan Thornton and Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, and what they have right now at receiver is essentially the equivalent of what you want to have long-term in the pass rush, to where you can just rotate guys in and out like a NASCAR pit crew and really kind of be able to keep everybody fresh, keep everybody at above 80% in terms of, like, either stamina or efficiency or something of that nature for those that have played Madden over the years. But you get to keep them at a certain level to where you can steadily rely on what their abilities are, and there's not a play where somebody may take off because they're tired, or a play where it isn't as successful, or they weren't in the right spot because they're tired or have a penalty or something execution-wise. So, yeah, the Chiefs being able to have the rotation that they do at receiver and be as stacked as they are at receiver, you're hoping they can stay healthy, because that can be a very big advantage for them for quite some time.
Yeah, and one other thing that happened today, Nick, that had not happened yet this season, the Chiefs' backfield, strictly running backs, go over 100 yards on the day, and good percentage of that was thanks to Brashard Smith chipping in 39 yards on the day. Kareem Hunt had 18. Isaiah Pacheco led the way with 57. I mean, the fact that they finally got over the 100-yard mark collectively as a group, I think is a good sign, but you still need to see more out of this backfield, don't you? Especially if you want this Chiefs offense to hit its maximum.
This is where people aren't going to like the negativity I'm going to have here, but it's just the reality. Because I'm looking at this on a long-term scale of what you need come playoff time if you're genuinely trying to get to and win a Super Bowl. Pacheco has his strengths and his weaknesses. You want to be under center with him, or if he does one of those outside zone or trying to stretch runs and everything, you just want him to make one cut and go, just one angle and go. And so whenever you do the off tackle handoffs out of shotgun, like for whatever reason, he always wants to try to do a shimmy shake, and that just buys time for them to get their pursuit wise, and then he wants to take off. Like, he still hasn't mastered the, hey, one cut and go. That's how he's got to operate. So you're just always going to kind of get like a clunky, inefficient run game from Pacheco. And part of that I'm not knocking him. Part of that's just because the scheme of the offense isn't the best fit for him. And like but they still continue. They're determined to continue to use it for him, because they don't want to be predictable whenever he comes in. Like, okay, he's coming in, so they're gonna run these 5 plays, or something of that nature. They're trying to keep it from being predictable. But I mean, with Kareem, you know what Kareem's doing. Kareem's running some variation of power, trying to get a couple yards. That's what he's going to be. And Brashard, I didn't like how much they ran him between the tackles, but you saw the explosiveness. And the kicker of it is they need that level of explosiveness or in that ballpark from all 3 running backs they have back there. The reality is they only have one. So if Brashard gets hurt, they're back to having no explosiveness in that backfield. And that's where I have my overall genuine concern long term is like, there's going to be a game and there's going to be a time where the Chiefs wide receiver room or the Chiefs tight ends or the Chiefs pass blocking, they're going to have struggles against future opponents, whether it's now or in the playoffs, and that's going to happen. And right now, they just don't have enough to lean on in that run game to be able to make up the difference and to force opponents to be able to kind of back off and be honest. So that's where I'm kind of looking at long term in this front is they need another explosive running back there that is not on this roster and is not on the practice squad. And I know they don't have a lot of cap room. There's some ways they can adjust a little bit to get it. But on the offensive side, man, having another explosive running back could really do wonders and take this offense to a level to where what you saw today can be more of the norm versus just like a rare treat that you allow yourself to get whenever you drive through Andy's frozen custard line once a week, because you don't want to put on the LBs.
I was at least encouraged that with Brashard Smith, they obviously had him going into the passing game for a little bit, 5 catches for 42 yards. The fact that they trusted him on that 3rd and 13 early in the third quarter to convert that screenplay for a first down. I don't know if Andy was really trying to go for the first down. Thought, okay, this is the way to get it, or was just giving him a chance. But Brashard took it, and I'm telling you, I mean, that dude is going to can take one of those and eventually just go 65 yards for a touchdown. I mean, he's got that Damian Williams, Jerick McKinnon kind of juice. I know you and I both want more juice in that running back spot, but Brashard's got some juice. And you're right, he lacks the experience.
He's got more than both of them. It's just a matter of trusting, having the instincts and vision to be able to trust what his body allows him to do athletically.
Yeah, I did like at least the fact, I mean, his run production wasn't great. I think on the day 14 carries, 39 yards. 10 of those carries were in the fourth quarter when I'm fairly certain that at least 8 of them, the instruction was don't get too many yards, including on that last drive when they just ran him 4 times up the middle. I mean, the instruction was clearly don't get into the end zone. Andy Reid did not want to do that. Let's go over to the defensive side, because as much as we gushed about the offense, I mean, there's plenty to gush about the defense too. Steve Spagnuolo has wanted a shutout for a while. He's talked about how tantalizing close that they have come before in the past. He finally got a shutout, Nick. It's been a long time since the Chiefs have had one of these. 10 years since the last one in the playoffs. 14 years in the regular season. Andy Reid's first shutout in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is a big part of it. I'm going to be blunt, is that they didn't have Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers out there to be able to help Geno Smith be able to kind of move the chains and have some down and distance. So not having Brock Bowers out there really helped them tremendously in that front. I mean, Genty, he showed some explosiveness. He's got a lot of promise as a running back. Overall offensive line, Raiders are slowly turning that over. And let's be honest, Geno Smith's not the quarterback of the future for him. He, you can just tell by the way he acted on the sideline sometimes how defeated he looked, and even though he knew he had to go out there and do a job a little bit longer and everything. But yeah, no, the Raiders, they're lacking a lot in that offense of trying to recreate what Pete Carroll had with the Seahawks there in the 2012 to 2016-17 range. So like, yeah, I mean, look, the Chiefs were able to contain them in the run, be able to keep Genty in check. They made Geno uneasy for most of the entire game, and the beauty of it is they didn't have a lot of threats in the wide receiver spot or the tight end room that were really going to kind of force them to play a different style than what they had to against the Lions in terms of physicality.
Yeah, but it's a dichotomy to me, Nick, because there's the one part of this that absolutely, I mean, the Raiders, I mean, Geno Smith had like two weapons, Trey Tucker and Ashton Genty, but didn't have anything else. And that's just not enough to be multidimensional. But then again, at the same time, how many times have we seen the Chiefs, for lack of a better phrase, play with their food a little bit and let a team that's got this many problems hang around or put up some garbage points? The Chiefs did what they're supposed to do, which is put a bad team down.
Right. Well, here's where a little bit of the difference, though, is they've put themselves in a hole that they know they don't have a lot of margin for error at this point. So I think they're having to play with a different mentality and a different mindset than they would other previous years when they're quote unquote getting bored with the game or getting bored with the game plan, or they don't have the challenges. They forced themselves to have to challenge themselves in every game going forward this year by the fact that they've lost 3 already. So like they've only got room for maybe one if they want to get the 1 or 2 seed, and if they want to get in the playoffs, you don't want to have more than 2 more losses the rest of the year, and you want to be in that 5 range if you're trying to win the AFC West. So all that combined, I think they know they can't let down. Even when it's a bad opponent, I think they know now that they have to build on the intensity from the previous week and try to do even better than that. So that Lions game was going to give them a ton of confidence coming into this one, and they carried that over. They played with that confidence. They played with that hitting ability. They played with the physicality as much as they could, and it'll be interesting to see what they do against the Commanders, because the Commanders, they got destroyed today by the Cowboys.
And we'll see what their quarterback situation come next week too, because that could be interesting. Because Jaden Daniels got beat up a little bit today.
Yeah, I think he's got a hamstring issue.
There is, I mean, this might, I don't know if this is enough to get a Nick rant or anything, but that was the earliest I think I've ever seen Andy Reid call off the dogs, and he took the foot off the pedal. Not only just the fact that they didn't throw the ball in the fourth quarter, didn't really try to score after Harrison Butker's field goal. They pretty much just shut up operations trying to score, and to the point where they also, what was it, 2.5 minutes left, took a knee. I've never seen a team take a knee that early, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have any issue with the final 3 minutes of the game, because you're trying to get out there. You played a physical game against the Lions a week, just 6-7 days before, depending on whenever each person started their rest and recovery after that Sunday night into Monday morning. So on that front, I totally get it. I'm not knocking them on that. I'm not knocking them for taking the guys out at the end of the third quarter there. Just for me personally, I mean, would I've loved to seen an additional drive that really kind of was attacking with a game plan they had to either get them to 30 get him to 35 or get him to 38. That would have, yeah, sure, of course. I would like to have seen that part of it. But whenever you get to that style of a game, selfishly, I just want to see you work on the run game intensely. Like, genuinely work on the run game, get those guys reps run blocking, give them that chance that they don't get as much from how limited practices are in training camp and how limited reps you get in the regular season, and let those guys build a rhythm every single football game that you get that opportunity to let them build on their run blocking ability. And that's kind of the biggest gift you can always give yourself in third and fourth quarter if you're up by a significant amount.
We talked about it earlier with the injury to Omar Norman-Lott, and if that injury is as bad as it certainly looked today, Nick, it's going to change the way that the Chiefs approach the trade deadline to me. I mean, obviously, defensive line was already going to be an area of emphasis. I just don't see, if you're Brett Veach, how, defensive tackle is now not going to be just an absolutely huge need, because that was a need before you lost Omar Norman-Lott.
Yeah, I mean, like, the reality is, do I want a running back 100%? Because I think that makes that offense I think it helps take that offense to the 2018 level if they do that. Selfishly, so that's what I want to see. But I also recognize and realize from a pass rushing perspective, especially now that Omar may be out, with how the knee injury looked and everything, you're kind of expecting to not hear great news on that front. But we'll find out. We don't know officially, but we'll find out. But you can kind of tell by how a player looks on the field, how they walk and everything, or how they react, the level of discomfort and pain that they're in, and potentially, how that injury may end up, playing out once you hear about it publicly. So right now, that pass rush is still Chris Jones. Like we said last week, it's Chris Jones. And if something happens to Chris Jones, you have nowhere to pass rush. You're going to have to blitz. And that's, Charles Omenihu may be coming on a little bit. George Karlaftis may be coming on a little bit. But the Chiefs' fastest sack today was Chris Jones at 5.2 seconds. That's not good. That's really not good. And that's also because Geno didn't have a lot of weapons at receiver. So, could the Chiefs use multiple pass rushers? Like, not just one, but like two? Yeah, they totally could. They use defensive tackle and defensive end. They could totally use that. So, but it's two fronts. You need, in an ideal world, I would love to see running back, but you need multiple pass rushers. And the question you have to ask yourself, and Brett Veach is probably asking himself, is that what is going to burn me in the playoffs if I don't have? And right now, not having a pass rush and having to rely on Chris Jones, that's going to burn you, and that's going to tire. He's going to be tired out by the time you get to the playoffs, especially if you don't get rest. So then where he's at is going to determine a lot of that. So you have so much riding on Chris Jones's health that you don't give yourself luxury to, one, take some snaps away from him throughout the rest of the season, but then two, on top of it, you just don't have another presence on that line right now that can really command Chris being able to have some one-on-ones from time to time on a regular basis. So, I totally get if they have to go with pass rush over running back, because can they get by with running back? Yeah, they can get by with running back. But if they meet a team that can slow them down pass in their passing offense, then the Chiefs it's going to be a kind of a struggle fest run game wise with where they're at right now. So, but from a pass rushing perspective, they need more on that roster than what they have.
And there's the potential that if it is bad news on Omar Norman-Lott, your only three healthy defensive tackles on this team would be Chris Jones, Derrick Nnadi, and Jerry Tillery. That's not enough. Yep. And yeah, you've got some reinforcements on the practice squad, but that's not the same as being
you have
active roster level. Exactly.
You have bodies on the practice squad.
You've got replacement level type players on the practice squad. Chiefs needs impact players. That's what they probably need to go shopping for. Yep. Last thing I know I want to talk about, Nick, and then I'm going to ask you, see if you've got anything else on the agenda. But Josh Simmons, we'll address it. There's not much to talk about. Andy Reid has said everything that the team's going to say, and that it's a personal matter that Josh Simmons is dealing with. We don't know anything in addition to that. The Chiefs, they know it. They're keeping it close to their vest. Chiefs just know that right now Josh Simmons isn't here, but they have Jalen Moore, and Jalen Moore has played 2 very good football games with him, Nick.
Yeah, so I mean, on Josh Simmons front, I mean, look, whatever it is, you're hoping for the best on whatever is happening, whatever's transpiring, whatever's going on. You and I obviously have heard a whole bunch of different things. You know, people want to tweet theories at us on top of it. Say they heard from Timmy Timerson, that heard from Veronica Corningstone, that heard from whoever, that that such and such thing happened. But like the reality is this on 2 fronts. One is that the longer it goes without people knowing whatever the story is, the more theories you're going to continue to have over and over again as people try to make sense of why Josh Simmons is not on the Kansas City Chiefs football team right now. The beauty of it is, like you talked about, is that there isn't a sense of urgency. There isn't a sense of panic because they did sign Jalen Moore in free agency and did have that safety net. If something did occur, if something did happen, and he could step right in and play at a starting level. So he's earning every penny that he got signed for in the offseason just in the past 2 weeks alone, let alone whatever he does the rest of the year. So on all that combined, I just, the Chiefs are going to be respectful of Josh Simmons' privacy. And I mean, I have no issue with that. I'm not owed anything on that front. And I mean, we'll see, whenever if the Chiefs ever have to make a roster move, then we'll have our answer on a timetable. But until that, I don't think the Chiefs have an answer on the timetable right now. I think they want to leave that door open for whatever the circumstance and situation is. And then they'll play it by ear until they get some definitive answer on what all he may need or what all may be going on. And then they'll make the according roster decision that they may have to, whether he stays on the active roster or they have to put him on a list for a while because of whatever may be going on. So, I mean, we'll see on all that. It's a lot unknown. I know we live in an on-demand world where people want answers the second that it happens or within a day of it, and then people get antsy when they don't have the answer so that they can make sense of it in their head. And so it just, that's just kind of the way the world works. And I mean, for people that, I don't know if you know this, if you ever watch an episode of 1883, people had to wait a long time on their journeys. They didn't just get on a plane and be there in 3 hours. They had to go across the prairie for months on end. So it's just, like I said, we live in an on-demand world. So like people's patience is minimal, and that's just not the way the world works sometimes. And that's just not reality sometimes.
No, it's not. We all have personal issues. NFL players are no different than you. Nope. Sometimes they want to keep them private, just like all of us do. And I know a lot of you have probably heard your own rumors and speculation. And here's the reality. We don't know what's going on, but nobody else does either. So the chances of things that you've heard are probably not true either. So I don't know if there's anything more to be said, Nick, but Josh will be back when Josh is ready to come back. Yep. That's all that needs to be said. All right, Nick, any parting thoughts from you on this big win?
No, I think we've exhausted everything that we need to talk about for today. It was a good building block from what they did the week before. It was not, like you said, similar to Chiefs past years where they have a really strong game, then they have somewhat of a letdown. They didn't have that today. And now they get a chance to go on Monday Night Football for the world to see next week and try to make another statement game. So, we'll see what they can do next week. They get an additional day of rest. And then after that, man, it's Buffalo Bills week. And then so I'm saying the Chiefs are getting this chance to really, in my opinion, ramp up to get to the Buffalo game and see if they can make the statement that I think they really want to make and really kind of put the 0-2 start well behind them.
Yeah, the Buffalo game is going to be an interesting opportunity because I think if you told the Chiefs fans that the Chiefs were going to be 6-3 at the bye week with the schedule that they had front loaded as it was, that would actually be in pretty good shape. But to get there, it would mean that you're going to have to win a tough game on the road at Buffalo. All right. Hey, Chiefs, this one 31-0. They put the Las Vegas Raiders away. Don't forget Tuesday night, the Chiefs Digest live Q&A. be there to answer all of your questions till the bitter end. I'll try to go faster than I usually do just so I can make Nick laugh at the end of the podcast today.
Good luck. I wish you the best on that.
And then we're going to be back next Monday night after the Washington Commanders and the Chiefs for 41 is the mic. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit the bell. Make sure you give us a review wherever you listen to your podcast. Give it a 5-star review preferably so more people will find the podcast. We appreciate that. And we will see you next week. Everybody, have a great week.
Share this with all your peoples.
You've been listening to 41 is the Mic, presented by KSHB 41, your home of the Chiefs and Chiefs Digest.